When I say if mayors rule the world, when I first came up with that phrase, it occurred to me that actually they already do. There are scores of international, intercity, cross-border institutions, networks of cities in which cities are already quite quietly below the horizon, working together to deal with climate change, to deal with security, to deal with immigration, to deal with all of those tough interdependent problems that we face. So the question is, how can we create a world in which mayors and the citizens they represent play a more prominent role? Well, to understand that, we need to understand why cities are special, why mayors are so different than prime ministers and presidents. Be a prime minister or president, you have to have an ideology. You have to have a meta-narrative. You have to have a theory of how things work. You have to belong to a party. Mayors are just the opposite. Mayors are pragmatists. They're problem solvers. Their job is to get things done, and if they don't, they're out of a job. Mayor Nutter of Philadelphia said, "We could never get away here in Philadelphia with the stuff that goes on in Washington, the paralysis, the non-action, the inaction." Why? Because potholes have to get filled, because the trains have to run, because kids have to be able to get to school. And that's what we have to do, and to do that is about pragmatism in that deep American sense. Reaching outcome. Real city mayors have to be pragmatists. They have to get things done. They have to put ideology and religion and ethnicity aside and draw their cities together. We saw this a couple of decades ago when Teddy Kollek, the great mayor of Jerusalem in the 80s and the 90s, was besieged one day in his office by religious leaders from all of the backgrounds. Christian prelates, rabbis, imams, they were arguing with one another about access to the holy sites. And the squabble went on, and Kollek listened, and he finally said, "Gentlemen, spare me your sermons, and I will fix your sewers." But the second thing about mayors is they are also what I like to call homeboys, or to include the women mayors, homies. They're from the neighborhood. They're part of the neighborhood. Mayors are usually from the places they govern. It's pretty hard to be a carpetbagger and be a mayor. You can run for the Senate out of a different state, but it's hard to do that as a mayor. And as a result, mayors and city councilors and local authorities have a much higher trust level, and this is the third feature about mayors, than national governing officials. When you ask, do you trust your city councilor? Do you trust your mayor? The rates shoot up to 70, 75, even 80%, because they're from the neighborhood. Because the people they work with are their neighbors. Because, like Mayor Booker in Newark, a mayor is likely to get out of his car on the way to work and go in and pull people out of a burning building. That happened to Mayor Booker. Or intervene in a mugging in the street as he goes to work because he sees it. So where does that leave us? I'll tell you, the road to global democracy doesn't run through states. It runs through cities. Democracy was born in the ancient polis. I believe it can be reborn in the global cosmopolis. In that journey from polis to cosmopolis, we can rediscover the power of democracy on a global level. Okay.